Good afternoon to all present here. Today, I, Mona Khosla, Assistant Professor, Civil Engineering Department of IIMT College of Engineering, is here to give the overview of the topic Introduction to Irrigation. Irrigation has been a key aspect of agriculture over 5,000 years and has been developed by many cultures around the world. Irrigation has developed our civilization, which has made possible to do the agriculture in a easier way. Irrigation in referred to as watering, which means that artificial application of water is only possible through irrigation. In fact, civilization would not be probably possible without some form of irrigation. The earliest form of irrigation probably involved people carrying buckets of water from wells or rivers or and pour them on the crops. As a better technique developed, now we are able to develop dams where the water can be stored and we can use that water for the application of the crops. Now, by the word of irrigation, what is irrigation exactly mean? Irrigation is defined as the process of artificially supplying water to the soil for raising crops. So, when there is scarcity of rainfall or inadequate rainfall, we were wholly and solely depend on irrigation. Irrigation is something in a one liner we can define as artificial application of water to the crops for proper yield. Second, a crop requires a certain amount of water at some fixed intervals throughout its period of growth. So, again, irrigation help us to define the amount of water for every crop and at a fixed interval. As you all know that every crop has different water requirement. So with the help of irrigation, this can easily be possible. If the water requirement of a crop is met by natural rainfall during the growth period, there is no need of irrigation as it is an artificial application of water. So if the rainfall is adequate, if there is no scarcity of the rainfall, then we don't need an extra application of water. The demand can be fulfilled by the natural way, that is the rainfall, and that is why we don't need the irrigation if the rainfall is in a proper amount. Why is the necessity of irrigation has been arised? First, because of the inadequate rainfall, non-uniform rainfall. In some season, we can find that there is a good amount of rainfall. In other season, there is a very less rainfall. So when there is a non-uniformity of the rainfall, then the necessity of irrigation is arised. Growing of number of crops during a year. Growing number of crops during a year, we need crop needs water. So for that, the amount of water needs to be fulfilled to get proper yielding. So then also we need irrigation because we can't be dependent on the natural way, that is the rainfall. Growing perennial crops. Perennial crops are the crops which are grown all the year round. For an example, sugar cane. Sugar cane is a crop which is grown all the year round and it is called as a perennial crop. So this crop needs water all the year round, and if in summer season we don't have, or rainy season we don't have the natural way like rainfalls in that area, so we are wholly and solely depend on irrigation. Then growing superior crops. The crops which are basically exported are considered as superior crops. For that also, for proper yielding of the crops and for the proper growth period, we need irrigation. Next, increase the yield of the crop. The amount of water for every crop has been defined. So for every crop, the amount of water needs to be defined with proper yielding of the crops. Then also we need irrigation. Then insurance against the drought. If in case the drought comes or drought arises, then also the necessity of irrigation arises. So these are the basic reasons by which we need irrigation. Now, there are different methods by which we can do the irrigation to improve the yielding of the crops. So, these are the methods considered as surface irrigation, subsurface irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, and drip irrigation. The surface irrigation is further divided as flooding method, furrow method, contour farming. Then flooding method is subdivided into wild flooding and controlled flooding. In the next slides, we'll consider one topic and we'll understand that why we are considering it as a flooding, but it is an artificial and a controlled way of water applying, but still it is considered as flooding. We'll understand this. Then controlled flooding is again subdivided into 6 categories. These are free flooding, contour laterals, border strip, check flooding, basin flooding, and zigzag method. So these are the methods by which we can do the proper irrigation to get the proper amount of water for the crops with the proper yielding of the crops. So basically there are 4 methods. First is surface, subsurface, sprinkler, and drip irrigation. What are the factors affecting choice of irrigation methods? On which factor we will decide that we have to choose this particular method? So first is soil characteristics of the land to be irrigated. What is the soil characteristics? Then topography of the area. Topography, we need less rain, less water, we need more water. The area is humid, the area is like summers are more in that area, so the water requirement would be more. So accordingly we need to choose, according to the area we need to choose the methods. Then the available water supply. See, the irrigation water is the artificial application of the water, and these water are stored in the dams, reservoirs. So accordingly we need to decide that what is the availability of the water and how can we supply this water to the fields. Then the type of crop and its requirement. Type of crops, like there are 2 crop seasons in India. First is Rabi season and Kharif season. Rabi season, as you know, that is a winter season which requires less of water, and Kharif season is the summer season which requires more of water. For example, rice is a Kharif season crop, Rabi is wheat is a Rabi season crop. So the water requirement for Rabi crops are less than the water requirement of the Kharif season crops. So accordingly we need to decide, and accordingly we have to choose the methods of irrigation. Next, the size of streams supplying irrigation water, like the dams, reservoirs. These are the ways by which the irrigation water is supplied to the field by making a proper channelized section, by making the channels and the canals are by which we can provide the water to the irrigation field. Then the amount of water required in each irrigation. For every crop there is a defined growth period, means from the starting from the seedling till the cutting or harvesting, every crop has a defined amount of water which has to be needed. So if proper irrigation method is used, we can make it possible by deciding a good irrigation method, and we can have a good yield of crops. Coming to the next slide. Now, surface irrigation method. As we have discussed that surface irrigation method, flooding, furrow, and contour method. What is surface irrigation method? Surface irrigation, when the water is supplied over the land, that is considered as surface irrigation. Subsurface irrigation, when the water is applied below the ground, or you can say underground, then it is called as subsurface irrigation. So surface irrigation, when the water is applied over the ground, then it is surface irrigation. And in this we have flooding, furrow, and contour method. Flooding, wild, controlled. So one by one we'll go with. In surface irrigation method, the irrigation water is applied by spreading in form of a sheet or small streams on the land to be irrigated. The surface irrigation is further divided as flooding, furrow, and contour. So, as I told you in a very simple form, over the ground or over the leveled area, we provide water, then it is considered as surface irrigation method. All the above methods of surface irrigation are adopted for the perennial irrigation system. As I told you, perennial crops all the year round. Perennial word means all the year round. So these systems are basically used when the water is required all the year round. So we consider it as a perennial irrigation system. The inundation irrigation system adopts only the wild or uncontrolled flooding method of irrigation. When there is seasonal water requirement, then it is considered as inundation irrigation system. Next, wild flooding method is the earliest and the primitive method of application of water to the land. In this method, the water is applied by spreading it over the land prior to the application of water. No land preparation is done in form of border or field ditches. The water is allowed to flow the natural slope of the land. While flooding, we just leave the water over the ground for the crops. So it is just we provide the water, nothing preparation, like we doesn't make the borders or the field ditches like ditches in which the water can be go slowly and steadily. So just on the basis of the natural slopes of the ground, the water is allowed over the surface of the ground, and we provide the water. So this is why this is considered as a wild flooding, because this is the earliest and primitive method of application of the water. Next, controlled flooding. As the name suggests, controlled. So we provide the water in a controlled form. In controlled flooding method, irrigation water is applied by spreading it over the land to be irrigated with proper control on the flow of water as well as the quantity of water applied. So here the water which provides on the surface is in a controlled flow, and also we can have the control on the quantity of water which has to be applied. All the methods of controlled flooding requires prior preparation of the land. As here we can have the preparations, that why how we can divide the fields, how much the water has to be given to that particular crops. So here everything has been decided. The land is properly graded and agriculture fields are divided into small unit by leaves. Here the agriculture field is properly made first, and then we apply water to the fields. Now we'll check one methods of controlled flooding. First is free flooding. Consists of dividing the entire land to be irrigated into small strips by number of field channels or leaves known as laterals. As you can see on the image, that the field is divided into number of field channels, mean the fields are divided, and then fields are again divided by these laterals known as leaves, and by this in this leaf we provide the water to the field. These laterals may be either at right angles to the side of field or at the right angles to the contour line. So this is how we provide the water for free flooding. Contour laterals. This is the special case of free flooding in which the field channels or laterals are aligned approximately along the contour lines. In this method, irrigation is possible only on the side of the laterals. So contour lines, basically on the hilly areas or on the mountainous areas, we have contours at different means at different elevations we have the levels. So this is considered as contours, and these contour laterals are basically used in hilly areas, and this is how the water is supplied to the fields. From the main ditch, the laterals have been divided, and we provide water in the main ditch, and then the water goes to the laterals, and the crops are grown according to the only on the sides of the laterals. Then border strip. In this method, the agricultural area is divided into series of long narrow strips known as border strips by the leaves, that is the small buds. So again in the image you can see we make the borders or series of long strips which are considered as a border. This method is suitable when the area is at level with gentle slope. So there should not be much of slopes in that area, then only the border strips irrigation method can be done. Means we make the borders around the small fields, like a small fields, the whole area is divided into borders, and these borders are considered as leaves, that is the small bunds. Then check flooding. In check flooding, the crop area is divided into small plots which are relatively leveled by checks or bunds. Water from field channel is allowed to enter to each plot or check basin, and the plots are flooded to the required depth. So again in the image, the check flooding means the area is divided into small plots, and these plots, the field channels or these plots, the water is allowed to go to this each check basin, and we can have a check of amount of water which is going on these leaves. Then basin flooding. This method is used frequently to irrigate the plantation. It is special type of check flooding method. Each plant is enclosed by circular channels which is called as a basin. So in the image, if I want to show you, this is the basin. So each plant, this is one single plant, and it is enclosed by this circular channel, and this is called as a basins. Basins are again connected to small field channels, and this is the ditches. And these ditches are connected to the main supply channel. So it means every ditch or every ditches have one single plant only. Then zigzag method. In this method, the agricultural area is subdivided into small plots by low bunds in zigzag manner. The water is supplied to the plants from the field channels through the openings. The water flows in the zigzag way to cover the entire area. When the desired depth is attained, the openings are closed. So this is the main sewage. If I want to show you in the image, the main sewage distributing the channels, and these are the ridges by which has been divided, the field has been divided, and the water is flowed in a zigzag way but in a channelized way. And if the water is fulfilled, then we can close the opening. So here the openings have opening have been closed. Then furrow method, it avoids the flooding the entire field surface by channelizing the flow along the primary directions of the field using furrow grooves or line. By the image, if you can be clear, so these are called as the furrows. So this furrow method. In these ditches or in this small bunds, we supply the water, and from these furrow the water is supplied to this field areas. Means slowly the water is supplied to this ditches, or you can say the furrows, and from these furrows the water is grown to the crops and they are raised. Then contour farming, we have discussed. Contour farming is practiced in hilly areas with slopes and with falling contours. The land is divided into series of horizontal strips called terrace. Small bunds are constructed at the end of each terrace to hold up water at equal heights. So this is the contour farming, which is practiced in hilly areas, as we have different elevations in that areas. So this is considered as a contour farming. So we have discussed all the methods of surface irrigation, from free flooding, wild flooding, contour farming. I hope you are clear with all the methods of surface irrigation. Now next we'll discuss is subsurface irrigation method. Is the irrigation of crops through buried plastic tubes containing embedded emitters located at regular spacing. The surface irrigation method consists of supplying water directly to the root zone of the plants. The favorable conditions of subsurface irrigation are which has moderate slope, Uniform topographic condition, quality of the irrigation water, means quality means there should not be much of salinity in the water, because much of salinity can destroy the crops in the very early stage. More of salts can destroy the crops, and the yield of the crops cannot be possible if there is salinity in the water. So the prior condition is good quality of irrigation water should be used for surface and for subsurface irrigation as well. Impervious subsoil at reasonable depth. So that the water can easily be transported below the ground if you have impervious subsoil. Subsurface irrigation can be classified as natural subsurface irrigation and artificial subsurface irrigation. Natural subsurface irrigation is something the groundwater is recharged naturally. So we can use the water, the crops can use the water ground in the ground, and this is the natural subsurface irrigation. In the root zone, the water is automatically there because the groundwater has been recharged naturally either by the rainfall or either by the any sort of drainage. So that is considered as natural subsurface irrigation. Artificial subsurface irrigation, when there is lifting of the water like from the wells or from the hand pumps, so that is considered as artificial subsurface irrigation. Next, sprinkler irrigation is the method of applying irrigation water which is similar to natural rainfall. Water is distributed through a system of pipes, usually by pumping. It is then sprayed into the air through sprinklers so that it breaks up into small water drops which falls on the ground. So this is the reason which why we are saying it as a natural rainfall, because here the water is given in the form of sprinklers, in a form of very small water droplets to the field, so that there should not be any flooding in the field and there should not be any loss of the water. So this is how the sprinkler irrigation is done. The sprinkler irrigation is of two types. One is the portable sprinkler irrigation, means this system can be transported from one place to other, and secondly, that is the fixed sprinkler irrigation system. So in this image we have a fixed sprinkler irrigation system, means the system which is concerned with the pipes, embedded with the pipes, and then we have the water coming out in a form of very small water droplets, so that there is no water loss or any type of much of evaporation loss because of this flooding or surface irrigation. These can be avoided by using sprinkler irrigation system. Next, drip irrigation, also known as a trickling irrigation method. This is the latest method of irrigation which is more popular in the areas facing scarcity of the water. This method was first introduced in Israel. In India, this method is more useful in areas in Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Kerala. So as the name suggests, it is in the form of drip, small like a drip. In the drip we have very small amount of water which is coming over it. Again, it is a combination of pipes, plastic pipes, and a proper irrigation system is developed, and in this irrigation system the water is formed in a provided to the crops in a form of a drip, so that there is very minimum amount of water loss, and the water is utilized in a very productive way, and we have got very good yielding by using drip irrigation method. So I hope we are clear with all the irrigation methods, like from surface irrigation, subsurface irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, and drip irrigation methods. So these are the basic irrigation methods. And again, revising, irrigation is the artificial application of water to the soil for the proper crop yielding. Thank you. Water is life. Save water, save life.